political story of the day. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is in Belfast to try and sell his deal to solve the Northern Ireland issue to the DUP. Now, you might think Brexit was done and dusted, but the issue of the Northern Ireland border has been hanging over the deal for 3 years now. Now, it seems like a deal might be days away. Kathy Barnard, Professor of EU Law at Cambridge University, is here to guide us through the complexities of the whole situation. Kathy, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
What exactly is going to be adjusted in the deal that Boris Johnson has already negotiated?
So it's a couple of things. The real issue is that there is what's called an east-west border. So that's on goods going from the GB to Northern Ireland. And the fact is people don't like having their goods checked going into Northern Ireland, certainly not the DUP. And so what's being proposed is a red lane, green lane scenario. And what that means is that if your goods go straight into Northern Ireland and stay there, they don't have to be checked. Mm-hmm. But if they go on to the south, then they do need to be checked, so they go into the red lane.
So, Kathy, how does that get enforced? I mean, I'm thinking about people who may want to get goods into the single market without them being checked. So what is to stop someone to say, oh, these goods are not going to leave Northern Ireland, they're just going to stay there. But actually, once those goods reach a warehouse, then they get distributed into the Republic of Ireland, therefore breaking that sort of ring fence of the single market.
That's a really good question. So there's a couple of ways. One, the EU is going to monitor quite carefully what's happening to all these goods, because one of the shifts that haven't occurred is that the UK has now decided it's prepared to share real-time data with the EU, so the EU can see what's happening. Secondly, the big haulage companies are really careful in their paperwork, and so therefore they want to comply with the rules because they don't want to slow up the process of goods getting into Northern Ireland and then also getting their lorries back to GB. And thirdly, there may well be criminal sanctions for people who declare that the goods are going to stay in Northern Ireland, but in fact they go on to the south.
OK. Now, the other big stumbling block that we've been hearing for years is the involvement of the ECJ, the European Court of Justice. How's Rishi Sunak planning to tackle that?
That is the tricky one, and that's the one that may still bring the whole deal tumbling down. So just to remember, in Northern Ireland, it's EU rules that apply to Northern Ireland in respect of goods. EU says it's our rules, so it's our court, the ECJ, which has the final say. The Democratic Unionist Party and the ERG, the European Research Group, say it is totally inappropriate to have a foreign court having jurisdiction on our territory. And that's why you have had the two sides speaking across each other. What's being reported is that the EU has not given up its demand that the ECJ should have the final say on EU law in Northern Ireland. But what they're trying to do is to insert an additional stage, some sort of political stage, some sort of arbitration panel before cases end up before the ECJ. And crucially, it looks like the Commission will not have a role in bringing proceedings against the UK for breaches in respect to Northern Ireland. And that was the thing that really upset Lord Frost. You might recall back in March 2021, the Commission brought a number of cases against the UK for not complying with the Northern Ireland Protocol. And Lord Frost, who was then the relevant minister, said this is totally inappropriate. And it looks like that bit has been removed.
So will we see the ECJ play some sort of role, albeit from afar? I also read in the report in the Times today that the EU would not be able to take cases directly to the court. So are they basically going to put some sort of body just before the ECJ? And is it completely unlikely that we're going to see the ECJ completely removed from the deal? I mean, that's impossible, isn't it?
Yeah, that is impossible. The ECJ will not be removed from the deal. Yes, it's likely there will be some intervening body, some sort of political stage, plus possibly an arbitration stage before cases get to the ECJ. And the key thing is, as you say, is that the Commission, so the EU, will not be able to bring cases against the UK. But it doesn't stop traders who are having difficulty with getting their goods into Northern Ireland from bringing cases in the Northern Ireland courts, and then a case being sent to the ECJ that way. So essentially the ECJ's role will be that of a backstop, but it will not be removed altogether.
Professor Cathy Barnard, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Pleasure.
Professor Cathy Barnard there, Professor of EU Law and Deputy Director of UK in a Changing Europe. Coming up next for us, we're going to be heading to our slightly modified Scotch Corner to look at the other day's biggest stories. I'm asking for your fashion faux pas. I've put my hand up and talked about wearing trainers with a suit, which is a must not. But what are